Welcome to Three and Out with Jason and Kevin. I am Jason. That is Kevin. We are brought to you by CincyJungle.com as well as the Believe network of shows. So we are on the Orange and Black Insider on YouTube, and we are on the channel Believe in Cincy, which is a part of the awesome Believe Sports Network. For our audio side, it's not just us. It's Anthony and John over at OBI. It's Matt and Willie at Matt and Willie No Ball. It's Talking Football with Bengal Jim and Friends and us. So there's Bengals content pretty much every day. We're getting into the season now, so there's probably going to be sometimes multiple things a day. You and I started this podcast a week after the Super Bowl ended, when there was nothing to talk about anymore. Like, we started the podcast, we just picked the worst time and said, hey, we're just going to wait till the season's over. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
2 years ago, right? And now we're finally getting back into it, which is super exciting. We're getting into the or not 2 years ago, we're getting into the actual game time. The Bengals played one preseason game, and they're heading into week 2. But there's some other stuff that to kind of talk about. Kevin, what's the big thing that's been going on your mind basically the last couple of days?
The only thing anyone's really talking about. I mean, we're talking about different things here and there. We'll cover them. Jamar Chase, sign the man.
Yeah,
just sign him. Just sign him. Just sign him. You just have to sign him. You don't have any leverage. There's nothing you can do. Right. There's nothing you can do. There's nothing you can do but just to sign him. Like, I don't know what is going on anymore. Do you know what I mean? Like, they're not going to bargain him down. They're not going to, there's nothing they can do. At this point, just sign him. Even if you're eating a few $1 million, you will save money long term than if you do not sign him and you let more wide receivers start driving up the price. This is getting insanely frustrating.
Yeah. I told you I expected them to sign him. I kind of still expect them to sign him before the season starts. But the more time that goes by, the more confused I am about what exactly the issue is. Because I can't imagine that they're looking at him and saying, hey, man, like, that's too expensive. It doesn't matter. I mean, it doesn't matter. Whatever it is, like, he's going to reset the market, and you just have to know that. You know, I mean, they're not going to ask for something. They don't want to get paid more than Joe Burrow. That's not a thing. Like, they're not asking for that. They just want to reset the market. And at this point, like, you're right. Just do it. Just like, whatever. Let's get this off our plate. You can play free and clear in 2024, and we got it taken care of. So there's really nothing to negotiate. There's nothing to debate. I don't understand what's taking so long. I mean, I'm sure there's things that are complicated that you and I don't really, things that go into contracts that we're not privy to. But like, whatever it is, whether it's guaranteed money or whatever, like, just give him what he wants. Give him what he wants and go play football. Go win championships.
I'm tired of being patient. We couldn't sign Jesse Bates, and we all just were fine. We tried. We all talked about being able to sign T. Higgins, and now we all understand we can't sign T. Higgins.
Yeah.
The Burrow contract, we all secretly hoped that he was going to take a slightly more team-friendly deal than he did, which was stupid, but we all hoped it. Right. I'm just tired, and I want to get this all behind me. The Jamar Chase contract is the last big contract that actually really matters for the short term. I just want it to be done. I just want to focus on football. And let's be honest, I know that everybody's like making excusing this away, saying like, "Oh, Jamar Chase doesn't need the reps." He does. He does to a certain extent.
Everybody
need the reps.
Right.
It just is what it is. We need him to get into football shape. It'd be one thing if we had like a couple softball games in the beginning, but the Pats lead directly into the Chiefs.
Right.
And it'd be pretty nice if Jamar Chase was at 100% game ready.
Yeah.
When
instead of 80%,
Chiefs.
whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree with you. And you brought up Jesse Bates and you brought up T. Higgins. Like, when they didn't re-sign Jesse Bates, obviously we didn't know at the time that Dax Hill was not going to work at safety. But when they didn't re-sign Jesse Bates, you and I, nobody, like, we didn't really complain. And there was some complaining a little bit, like, oh, it sucks. But we understood why. Burrow's got to get paid and Chase has got to get paid. When they didn't sign Higgins, we know why. You and I actively said, don't sign Higgins. Don't re-sign him. You know what I mean? Don't extend Higgins. But you don't extend Bates and you don't extend Higgins, so you can extend Chase. And if you're not doing that, then what's the point of letting Higgins walk for free and letting Bates walk for free? You know what I mean?
Specifically, if you don't sign Chase this season,
Yeah.
then it was stupid not to pay T. Higgins. Like,
I totally agree.
You need to have one big contract this season for cap reasons and everything else.
Yep.
If it's not T, which we've all accepted, it's not. And
Yeah.
you also don't sign Chase until next season, then you have made a massive mistake.
Right.
Just pay the man.
So they do have the only thing that they have going for them really is that they have this offseason that's almost over and this season, and then 2 more, year 4 and year 5. When they activate his 5th year option. But the longer you wait, if you don't get it done this season, what do you think the percentage is? The percentage of how much it goes up every year. I'd be willing to bet if you don't pay him this season, you have to pay him 15% more next year.
I was
If
going to
not
say
more
10,
than that.
but regardless,
Yeah.
we both agree it's going to be a not insignificant jump.
Right. So pay him this year. I know the salary cap's going to go up, all that stuff. It's all relative, but just pay him. And then don't worry about anything else. This is just a hypothetical question. So let's say they have some money to spend, they have to spend it, and they decide not to extend Chase this year. Is there a place that you would like that money directed to? Is there a position where you'd like some more depth? Is there a position where you think like, oh, hey, maybe they could spend some money here, and this is really a missing piece for a championship run in 2024? I'm okay with extending Chase next year for 10% more if we get X, Y, or Z in 2024. You know what I mean?
There is no version where I'm okay.
Okay.
Because I just don't think the player exists.
Right.
If this was earlier in free agency, we could talk. We could talk about a player that I would like to slot into the Bengals, and that player would make it okay theoretically to push Jamar Chase's contract off a year.
Okay.
But if the question is, there are position groups that I think could be addressed with that money if the Bengals do really stupid things and don't sign Jamar Chase, sure. I think we could use another defensive tackle, especially one who can play nose. I don't even know who that would be. It's not Tart. Everybody needs to let it go.
No. Yeah,
the Dolphins are in the exact same situation we are with their defensive line.
Yep.
If he didn't make it there, there's a good reason. But I still think we should try to grab another defensive tackle. Cornerback depth used to be a concern, but I'm getting better about it now. I'd like another running back, just a vet. What do you think?
So I agree with you. I don't think that there's anything that you could give me at this point in the offseason that would make me be okay with waiting for a year to extend Higgins. Now, if you had said something earlier, like before the draft, like, hey, Chris Jones for a couple years, and then you extend Chase. You know what I'm saying? Something like that. I'd be like, oh, absolutely. It's worth paying Chase more next year or whatever. But at this point, there's nothing. There's nothing that you could offer me that would make me want that more than a Chase extension now. You know what I mean?
Right.
If I had to pick something, it would probably be depth at defensive tackle, depth at the interior of the offensive line, maybe guard. Or we need wide receivers bad. Maybe wide receiver like a number 1, something like that. Yeah, like a number 1. I don't know. We need to go out and get Brandon Cooks. I don't know where Brandon Cooks is, but if we don't have Brandon Cooks, we're in trouble. So no, I just, I don't think we're both on the same page when it comes to Chase. Speaking of wide receivers, I did want to ask you, Brandon Aiyuk looks like he's going to be in one of 2 places. He's going to be in San Francisco, where they're renegotiating whatever, figuring things out, or he's going to be in Pittsburgh. One of the 2.
Yeah.
On a scale of 1 to 10,
sure.
Okay, how much does Brandon Aiyuk coming to Pittsburgh concern you? If he comes to Pittsburgh.
A 4.
Okay. All right.
Stuff like Brandon Aiyuk coming to the Steelers is that coin game where you put the coins down in the slot and they slowly stack up until it creates a waterfall, right? Like David Busters and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Brandon Aiyuk is one of those coins. Meaning on his own, I just don't think he's the piece the Steelers need in order to suddenly be a good and threatening team. If they get their quarterback situation figured out, if Justin Fields ends up being very good, because it's not going to be Russell Wilson, which I don't expect him to be, but maybe he could.
Yeah.
Or if they end up drafting the right guy next year and they have Aiyuk under multiple year contract by then Aiyuk becomes a problem. On his own, right now, I just don't think he moves the needle that much for this team.
I agree. And I think that might be one of the most beautiful football analogies I've ever heard. That he's just one of those coins in the waterfall machines. That's absolutely gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. All right, moving on. Amarius Mims strained his pec earlier this week. He's set to miss several weeks. We learned last year, I thought several meant 12, but we know now that several means a few, 5, 4, 5, whatever.
Yeah, 5.
Yeah, 5. So you expect Amarius Mims, he's going to miss the rest of the preseason probably, and maybe week 1 and week 2, maybe. Maybe,
Yep.
the first time we see him will be against the Chiefs or something like that. He didn't have a lot of knocks coming out of college. The 2 major knocks he had were, 1, he doesn't have a ton of game tape, and 2, he has a hard time staying on the field sometimes. His durability is an issue. So, again, on a scale of 1 to 10, how worried are you about Amarius Mims?
2.
Okay.
This is not an issue. I believe it's not an issue. This isn't even what I would consider to be an injury. This
Okay.
is a minor thing that I actually think he could probably play through if he absolutely had to. But we're in the preseason. He's a first round pick, and you have Trent Brown. I
Right.
think that if we did not have we forget Amarius Mims at this point is the backup. It's
Right.
very, very easy to take your backup, who was always going to be your backup, and
Right.
bench him because you're not benching him. He's the backup. He was never meant to play week 1 or 2
Right.
anyways.
Right.
So this idea that like he's sidelined. No, he was sidelined before he was ever drafted when we signed Trent Brown.
Right.
It was fun to think he might win the position, and maybe he would have. I actually think he had a chance.
Yeah.
But he gets a little dinged up. We just go back to the plan from the very beginning. Trent Brown starting. You go ahead and get healthy, man. It's
Yeah.
not a big deal. It really isn't.
Okay. So the only thing I do agree with you. I don't think there's any reason to press the panic button. It's not like this is a nagging injury that's like repeated, that like this pectoral strain was a specific strain he dealt with in college, as far as I know. Based on the Bengals' history of drafting offensive linemen, that's the only reason it has me worried, just because if history repeats itself, it'll be an issue. The nagging injuries, just because when the Bengals draft offensive linemen, they don't pan out. The best we've had is Cordell Volson and Jonah Williams, and they were mediocre. So I'm hoping that Mims is different. He seems different. He's not built like an offensive lineman. He's built like a basketball player. That's what he looks
Sure.
like to me. He looks
Just
like Shaq,
yes.
or he looks like that other big, huge guy. I can't remember his name now. Either way. But yeah, so I agree. I'm not worried. Trent Brown, I was always planning on being the starter. When he came back, and I think everyone was worried that maybe he was injured. But he talked about, like, I've done this for a long time. I have a lot of reps. I'm not concerned about it. We're a month out now, and this is when I get started. I think this was always the plan, is him telling the team, like, hey, I'm not going to be there at, mini camp. I'll show up, I'll be at the place, but I'm not going to practice until we're a month out. And when you have a guy who's been a Pro Bowler, who's won a couple Super Bowls, and he's played at Trent Brown's level for as long as Trent Brown has played at that level, despite his durability issues, I think a guy like that has earned some leeway. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like he doesn't need to come in and physically abuse his body to get ready for more abusing his body. So I don't know. I am excited to see Trent Brown on Saturday. I'm assuming we'll see Trent Brown on Saturday. Maybe his first game action. So maybe a little bit.
I don't know how many of the starters, if any, are playing then.
Yeah,
And
I
if
don't know.
Trent Brown's considered a starter, then
Right.
hey, this is the other part we need to talk about with Amarius Mims. The only part that does matter. I gave it a 2.
Yeah.
And I hold by that 2. It's in one very specific way, it's a 10 in that it matters. And that
Yeah.
Amarius Mims getting hurt probably lets Jackson Carman keep his job. Because we just don't have the bodies at tackle. So there we go. Jackson Carman is probably going to be a Bengal for another year. It's the worst news I've heard in weeks.
So the only way that that's not true is one of a few things happens. Is one, Amarius Mims, he's fine, totally good, which I don't think that's going to be the case. 2 would be Deante Smith or a guy like Eric Fisher. an undrafted free agent, someone like that steps up and plays really well. But the thing that Jackson Carman has going for him is his experience starting at both guard and tackle and just the versatility he brings. I do agree. It is bad news. It's bad news because after 4 solo penalties in one preseason game, 3 holding calls and 1 false start, he shouldn't be on the team. Yeah, against backups. Yeah, that's the thing. Against a bunch of backups. And he has started before. And, we've seen some flashes. Remember when he started at left tackle against Buffalo and we're like, oh, hey, look at that. Jackson Carman played really well. And then he comes out the next week and just lays an egg. So, yeah, if the Mims thing keeps Jackson Carman around, that's going to suck. But it is what it is. Who's the swing tackle? If Mims does miss a couple weeks, who's the swing tackle? Is it Carman?
I think,
or is it maybe Cody Ford? I mean, Cody Ford has the experience too.
I mean, yeah. Cody Ford's
know.
probably better than Jackson Carman. They're both not good tackles.
I think a lot of people are better than Jackson Carman. A lot of people are. Lots and lots and lots of people.
That's why I was really, really happy that I thought that his performance at the preseason
sealed his
probably
fate.
Cost him his job. It just felt good to not have to ever say the words Jackson Carman again.
Yeah, it may. I don't want to plug all my stuff, but I did that big thing on Cincy Jungle, the 11 years of the Bengals drafting offensive linemen, and just it's been bad. It's been really, really bad. They're bad at it.
Yep.
The only one I can think of on that list that was more disappointing than Jackson Carman is Cedric Ogbuehi. It's the only one. It's the only guy taking Billy Price as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, Jackson Carman's been a disaster. It's been an absolute disaster for this offense. It would be nice if he could go somewhere. Maybe we can trade him. We traded Billy Price for BJ Hill. Maybe we can call up the Giants and say, hey, we're going to give you this shiny, brand new Jackson Carman, and you give us your new edge rusher. I don't know, something.
I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility to trade Jackson Carman.
I don't think so. There's teams that need depth bad enough to say, hey.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And then that's where we get our defensive tackle at. We desperately need one, especially a nose tackle. There has to be a second or third string nose tackle out there. I guess
somewhere.
Third string nose tackles even really exist. Not many of them, I would imagine.
Probably not.
There has to be a second string nose tackle out there for an O-line needy team who wants to take a swing on Jackson Carman. There seems to always be a team who looks at anybody drafted in the first 3 rounds and says, I can fix it. That's what I try to do.
Sure.
Other than that, I don't want to talk about Jackson Carman anymore. It makes me sad.
Okay, so let's branch off of that conversation because it does have something. I do have a question for you. It does have something to do with trading. JJ McCarthy is done for the year up in Minnesota, right?
Yep.
This is the time of year where there's not a lot of quarterbacks sitting around. Okay.
You want to trade Jake Browning?
I'm just asking you, what would your thoughts be on taking advantage of the situation and saying, hey, we want a defensive tackle for Jake Browning?
I would be 100% about that. I do think he has some value, especially to a team like the Vikings. If not the Vikings, then I don't think he has a lot of value almost anywhere else at this point. I think everybody's pretty settled. If we wanted to trade him, we wait for a playoff caliber team to lose their quarterback in week 5. But if the Vikings want him, I don't know what the Vikings roster looks like. I'll take a 3rd round pick, or I will take a defensive tackle.
Justin Jefferson.
Or Justin
straight
Jefferson.
Up. Justin Jefferson
He probably wants off that team. A lot of people said that the reason he was holding out was partly because he wanted to know what the quarterback plan was. Sorry, buddy.
Yeah. There's no position where you're so dependent on another person to get you paid. I mean, like stud wide receivers find a way to do it. I mean, when I think of like stud wide receivers with bad quarterbacks, Terry McLaurin seems to put up big numbers every year because he's just a really good wide receiver and he's gone through a garbage quarterbacks, But there's a lot of guys who could totally reset the market if they just had somebody good throwing to them. If they just had somebody good. So I get where you'd be coming from if you lost Kirk Cousins and you're like, hey, what's the plan? and they pull JJ McCarthy. We don't know what he's going to be like, and now no one's going to know until next year. So we're getting down to it. Anything else you want to talk about?
Last thing that desperately needs to be brought up, it is the most important news, is that the Bengals have orange pants.
Yes.
It is.
Yes.
It is. There's many of us who've been beating this drum since the new uniforms were revealed. It was always stupid that we had white, black, and orange jerseys, white, black, and orange everything, and yet we did not have orange pants. We have them now. All is right in the world.
Yes.
The Bengals are going to win the Super Bowl.
I agree with everything that you said, 100%. I think that the way that they announced the orange pants is awesome. They got
leaked, and then they did
they got it kind of leaked because of Madden, but then they used the same hanger that the jersey got. Is this awesome social media presence. But yeah, they look great. I saw just like AI renderings, like artists, like, hey, here's what this combination will look like. Of the orange pants, what jersey are you looking forward to seeing most? I would have thought orange and orange, but I don't think I like that.
I do like orange and orange just because it's different. I wouldn't want to do it more than once a season.
Gotcha.
Just because it is a lot, but I do think it's fun, and I do think it's like a unique thing. Black jersey, orange pants is a killer combination. I don't love orange pants, white jersey. I've been calling it the creamsicle in my own head. Like it looks like one of those like orange vanilla to like creamsicle pop things. But I like it all. I just like variety. I'm a big uniform guy. I have very strong opinions on uniforms. But orange helmet, black jersey, orange pants, black socks and shoes is a incredibly good looking combination.
I agree with you. I do think that the orange and orange, that could be like a cool Halloween kind of thing. Like that's going to be our jack-o'-lantern game, whatever you want to do. But I do agree that the coolest combination is black and orange. I love it. I think it looks awesome. There's something about, I don't even know what it is. There's something about just the orange pants that makes everything on the black jersey pop. It's just awesome. It looks great. It looks absolutely
We need to save the all orange. We need to, if we face the Dolphins again.
There you go.
You know how they do the all teal?
Yeah, they do all teal. Could be all teal versus all orange. Yeah, I love it.
And then we do a whiteout game versus the blackout Ravens. We could have a whole theme. We have themes.
We could
make football fun again, man. Come on, let's do some goofy stuff.
All right, I'm going to ask you one more random question, two more random questions, and then we're going to go.
Okay.
The Bengals play in Chicago this weekend. Okay, one player. I want you to name one player who needs to have a great game if he wants to stick around on this team. One player needs to have a great game.
If he wants to stick around on the team, Zach Carter.
Okay, that's a really good answer.
But he has been kind of, but he has been kind of pushing around.
Yeah,
Cap, and now the depth is an issue, so he probably has a role. I don't know. I have to think about it just because Jeff Gunter retiring out of nowhere, and injuries have kind of changed my evaluation as to that kind of thing. But I'm still going to say Zach Carter for right now. He needs to have at least a reasonable game. We'll see.
Okay. I'm gonna say that I need to see something more from Chris Evans. Chris Evans is either going to do something or he's not, and I just can't imagine him wasting another roster spot this year. Like, figure it out now or don't. So I don't know. I'd like to see something big from Chris Evans. And then last question: who is a player who cannot afford to have a bad game? Cannot afford to have a bad game because he could be cut before the third game. I'm going to use my guy. After the pathetic performance he put on, Jackson Carman cannot afford to have another bad game. If he does, he could be in some serious trouble. Now, with Amarius Mims hurt,
that's the issue, right?
It changes things, right? But I'm still going to say, like, he just can't go in and just have another disaster every game. He can't. What do you think?
He's probably the choice. I'd still say Zach Carter's the same way. Yeah. I'm going to go Zach Carter again. It's kind of the same question, right?
It is a little bit. Yeah.
You know, who has to have a good game? I would flip it and I would ask you, not who has to, but for the final going out, who do you want to see have a great game? Who's your guy? If you could pick one guy and say, like, I know what this guy can bring, I want this guy to secure his spot on the roster, who's it going to be for you? Because for me, it's Matt Lee. I've been banging the drum for Matt Lee since we signed him, and he is, after his performance at the end of the last preseason game, I thought he did great. I thought he looked great, and now he's working with the twos out of nowhere.
Yep.
They see what they have in him, and because he's a little undersized, I'd like him to get one more great game under his belt, and I think that's the nail in the coffin for Trey Hill, at least as far as being the backup is concerned. I think Matt Lee has that job if he shows out in this next game.
So the guy that I want to see have a huge game, I want to see Joseph Osai do some crazy stuff. Sure. I want it to be a Joseph Osai year, not a year of look what Joseph Osai could have done. I want it to be a Joseph Osai year. So
we've been wanting it for, a long time now, man. If I would get hyped if Joseph Osai became even half of what we've all been wanting him to be.
He's in a contract year too. So there's a year to do it. Now's the time. All right. You got anything else, man?
Nope. That's it.
All right. Well, once again, we are on the Orange and Black Insider on YouTube. And then we are on the Believe network of shows on the audio side. Update your RSS feeds. We are on the channel Believe in Cincy, and that's BLEAV. That combined with the Orange and Black Insider, it's not just us, it's Anthony and it's John. Jeez. Anthony and John Sharon over at OBI. It's Talking Football with Bengal Jim and Friends every week, and then it's also Matt and Willie No Ball. So there's new football content every single day. Yeah, man. I'm pumped. We'll be back next week to talk about, we probably won't recap week 2 preseason. That'll kind of be a dead horse by the time. We'll talk about any sort of contract updates between now and then. Hopefully Jamar Chase has something to talk about. We have something to talk about with Jamar Chase or positive injury news. That's right. We have to sign. Yep, we could do something. So we have to.
Do something. You have the money. Do something.
Yep.
Come on.
Do something. So do something with it. I think of that meme. Come on, do something. All right. Thank you very much for watching. We'll be back next week. And who day?
Who day?